Yeah, this is the old barn. There's not too many. There's not too many wooden barns left anymore. Very few. This one needs to be redone, but my grandfather would load that old 24 Dodge up full of fruit, because this was a fruit farm, and he'd have a dime in his pocket, and that would buy him a gallon of gas, and then he could get his fruit out to the cannery, and but that's all he'd have is 10 cents. So I can reach. I used to run up this when I was a young man all the time, but things just changed a little now. Well, that's starting to look like a tree now, maybe. After they planted all the strawberries, my grandfather, Harley, needed a truck of some sort to get the fruit to market. And back then, they didn't have what we call light pickups. And so it was a common practice back then that many people would take a car and then turn the back end into a pickup box, and you'd have then a light pickup. I think we got a wheelbarrow in here the way I thought we did. Oh yeah, there it is. They took a car and turned it into the pickup that I knew when I was a boy. It was a 24 Dodge. When my grandfather sold it, I was 9 years old, and so all that time before, as a small kid, I played in it, you know, like boys do, driving trucks and everything else, and I was quite fond of the truck. It didn't run then, and but I spent a lot of time playing in it as a kid.
Let's see.
Can I go?
Yeah, it goes. Yeah.
I got it to work. I didn't think I'd get it to work, but I did.
Interesting.
A young man who lived down the street about 5-6 blocks approached my grandfather and asked if he'd like to sell the truck. So he sold it for $25. I was quite upset as a 9-year-old boy because I wanted to keep the truck, and my grandfather didn't want anything to do with it at that time, and so the truck went away.
We were very young. Yep. Yep. There's my mom and I. There's Papa. He was one, well, he still is handsome. A handsome dude. Yep. Yep. When we first got married, Brent and I did not have any money, zip. So I made the mistake of telling Brent that I would drive anything as long as it had 4 wheels and an engine. And over the years, that's literally what I drove. He had accumulated these other cars. He liked working on the old cars.
Right after I retired in January of 2013, I was looking at the old cars, and all of a sudden up popped this truck, and there's not another one like it on earth. And I stopped and I looked at it and I said, oh my gosh, that's Grandpa's truck.
And at the time, he had 6 cars, and I thought that was enough. And when he found this old truck, and then he said this man wanted $4,000 for it, in my brain, that was it was actually a no-brainer because we didn't have the $4,000. So as we discussed it, he mentioned that he had $3,000 because he had recently retired.
And I said, that's my money. And my wife said, yeah, that is your money. Well, I guess if you can get it for $3,000, you can go ahead and buy it. Ugly damn thing.
You can see on this boot where they've run it right down the boot.
Yeah, okay, turn it over in there, right there like that. There you go. All right, there we go there. There we go. Did you get a piece of chalk?
No.
Okay, let's turn it around and lean it up against the wall. A couple more days, I made a call to the man. I went in and looked at the truck, and he said, well, what would you give me for it? And I told him, I said, well, listen, Brad, I only got $3,000, and I explained the story to him, and no, I says, I'm not selling it for $3,000. I didn't hear from him anymore, and I figured that Grandpa's truck was gone.
But I said to him, if it's meant to be, then it'll happen. Then I said, hey, you know what? If your grandfather doesn't want you to have it, maybe your dad does. Because that was the little truck that they had gone on a first date with, like you say, Brent's mom. So.
Anybody else want their cheese melted?
No, hot dogs?
It's homemade relish.
Which chips? These ones? You have your own?
Oh, we got chocolate milk.
Yeah.
Get going there. You want me to do
Alright.
So open the chip.
Okay, so where this little pin is,
Right there.
I live by Tommy's Burger.
Sweet.
Isn't the Provo Bakery down that way?
Around the first part of April, I got a phone call. He said, you want to buy this old Dodge truck, Brent? And I said, I only got $3,000. And he said, well, all right, on Friday, you'll be up here with a trailer and all the things you need and $3,000 cash, and you come get this thing. All right. I said, okay. Now, there we go there. Let me. And so when we put it up on the trailer, I said this was my grandfather's truck. Oh, bull, he says, how do you know it's your grandfather's truck? And I handed him a picture of it sitting right over here in front of my grandparents' home. And he looked at the picture, and he looked at me, and he looked at the picture, and he looked at the truck, and he said, now this all makes sense. He said, I sold this to a young man, and he gave me some money and was going to make payments. And he said after a month or so, he called up and wanted to get out of the deal and get his money back. And he said, I told my wife, he says, I don't know why I feel this way, but he says, I just feel I ought to give the guy his money back and let him out of the deal. And he said, now I know why. He said, because you were supposed to have the truck. Most people that take that and break it down, get rid of it, and make a new one and put on there and have this nickeled. But this was the steering wheel my grandparents held onto, and my great-grandfather held onto. And so I'm just going to finish it, paint this kind of a chrome color, and just leave it, because this was the steering wheel my grandparents used when they drove this.
It's hard. He's had this love of old cars all these years, and he's restored quite a few. But now that he's getting older, it's getting harder for him to work on them. And I'm hoping that he can get it done before, his health declines. It's a part of his family history. It's a part it's a part of who he is.